Hey everyone, this is Lane here from Practice Drumming. And if you're a beginner drummer looking for help on the single stroke roll, this lesson's for you. All right, let's just jump right in. What is the single stroke roll? All right, well, it's literally just alternating, right? So take a look here. Just right, left, right, left. Let's take a listen, real straightforward. Here's a single stroke roll example at 60 BPM. All right, a little faster. Let's check out 80. Okay. Little quicker here. Let's just check out one more speed real fast at 100. Here we go. Okay, so after hearing this, you might think, "Oh gosh, Lane, come on. This is so basic, right? I don't need to practice that. That's just alternating." But remember that, just like a home has a foundation, right? You can't build a home without a foundation. This is part of one of your drumming foundations, and alternating is a huge key to that, particularly being really consistent with it, right? Both in terms of your timing, your stick height, your accuracy on the drum, right? These are all huge pieces of your drumming foundation. So even though this may not be super cool, won't be very flashy from the outside, it is so important. And it's also going to help you with those cool, flashy things. So just remember that as we get into this, I'm going to give you a little bit of preview of what we're going to get into and kind of how you can apply this to other things that are a little cooler and flashier. So let's skip ahead here for a moment and let's take a listen on how you could use this within a beat. Okay, so the first beat we're going to take a look at, we're going to be using this single stroke roll right here, just this alternating, just this right, left on the hi-hat, okay? It's going to be a very basic application, but very slick, very cool. So take a listen here. Really adds a lot, right? Just that little, just chicka chicka pop boom. It adds a nice little bit of flavor, right? Okay, let's move a little further ahead. Let's check out one of these fill applications. So again, this is a very simple application of the single stroke roll, just a right, left, and we're gonna be going from tom to tom. Now, these are just examples, right? And in these examples, I'm repeating this exercise over and over. This isn't necessarily how you would use it in a song, but these are meant to be practice videos where you can kind of hear these things over and over. So just know that. But to give you a little more context of how it would sound in a song, I've added in these backing tracks to it to let you hear how this drum beat or fill would sound in an actual musical context. So I hope that helps. Let's check out how this fill sounds with the single stroke roll at the end. Here we go. So that's pretty cool, right? Again, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's these nice little pieces of flavor. And really, in my opinion, that's what drumming is all about. You hear people say a lot, this drummer really played for the song, right? And what people are saying when they say that is the drum part really helped support all the other pieces of the song, the vocals, the guitar, the bass, right? It fit in really nicely. And when you're able to add in little bits of flavor like this, you're able to take those nice supporting drum parts and add little bits of spice. And that's really what elevates your drum parts in a song. So in this course, as we move through it, just this whole course, I'm going to show you a progression of how you can go from this basic single stroke roll through to these beats and fills that we talked about just now. So again, this is a basic rudiment, right? This is nothing mind-blowing, but the idea is how can you take this basic rudiment and move it into beats and fills that you could feasibly use while jamming along, to music by yourself or playing with your friends. Okay, so let's get into the core of this lesson here and talk about what I want you to focus on as you're practicing this single stroke roll. So again, this is just alternating. Let's get it into our ear one more time. Here's a single stroke roll at 60 BPM. And notice how there's a metronome going along here to help you know where 1 is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's what I really want you to focus on when you're practicing this single stroke roll. I really want you to focus on a nice, big, full wrist motion. So let's kind of break down the body positioning here. So starting off, elbow, when it's at the peak of this motion, is at about 90 degrees, right? Wrist is pulled back. Fingers are curled, but they're not totally curled in, right? I'm not gripping the stick like a fist, right? They're just about half curled, right? Not all the way out, not all the way in. As I come down, right? Okay, so boom, everything extends down, right? And once that stick hits the drum, notice that I don't just stop my wrist here. If I keep going, it pops right back up, right? Just to where I started. So, and down, boom, pops right back up. And boom, pops back up. Okay, so why is this important? This is important for a couple of reasons. First reason, when you use this continuous motion, it's really going to help you utilize rebound. And rebound's incredibly important. Important for, keeping the flow in your drumming, important for when you're trying to move around. Let's say you're trying to go, from the snare drum to a tom or to one of these cymbals here. Really helps you utilize all that force and that energy you've already put in, right? To go make another motion. Second big reason, when you throw your stick down, you're using a lot of energy, right? And if you don't let that energy dissipate and pull it back, you're going to absorb all of that into your wrist. And that's no good. That is a recipe for an injury. So, maybe in that one particular session, if you grab every single one real hard, you might be okay. But over time, that can really be hard on your wrist. So remember that by utilizing this big continuous motion, you're helping utilize rebound, and you're also going to avoid injuries to your wrist. So when you get to the bottom here, boom, pop it back up, and boom, pop it back up, right? Okay, with all of that in mind, here's what I want you to practice for this lesson. We've recorded these exercises, this rudiment, at 3 speeds, at 60, at 80, and 100, and actually recorded them at all of 3 of these speeds. It wasn't just speeding up the video, right? So what I want you to do is get your practice pad or your snare drum, and I want you to set that in front of you and then get your device set in front of that. So whether it's your phone or your tablet or your computer, maybe you set that on a table kind of right in front of you. So once you've done that, you're going to plug your headphones into your device, right? Or they're wireless or whatever it is. You're going to have headphones on, and you're going to play along with these videos. These videos that we've walked through here during this lesson as an example are meant to be used as practice videos for you so that you have an example to play along with. Just the same way if you had a drum teacher sitting right in front of you, right? This is that function. If you were in a drum lesson, a live drum lesson, your teacher would be playing along with you. This is you and us playing along together, okay? So when you're practicing this, I want you to play all of these speeds, and I want you to play each video maybe 1, 2, or 3 times. This isn't a perfect science, but the point here is to work on control, right? Even if you can move faster than the 100 BPM, let's say you could go 150. It's not about moving quickly. It's about warming up your wrists, and it's about utilizing the control for that nice big full motion. So play each video 1 to 3 times, and then move on to the next speed. All right, good luck. Happy practicing. doke. So moving on here, we're going to pair these next two exercises together. And let's take a listen. I always like to give some context to what we're about to learn before we learn it. So let's listen first here. So first, we're going to add an accent in with this single stroke roll on the first note. Here we go at 60. Great. All right, just a little faster. Let's hear 80 now. All right, just to finish it off at 100. Okay, all right. So again, just kind of a basic little change, right? Just on that first right hand, adding that accent in there. Okay, so that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about. Let's go to the second thing we're going to talk about. And that second thing is going to be doing that exact same hand pattern, having that right hand accent right there, but pairing it with a kick. So notice here, we've also added in the foot cam, right? Just so you can kind of see what the foot is doing. So the only difference here is we're just adding that kick in, and it's going to nicely help just pop that first note. All right, let's take a listen again. This is at 60. Here we go. Nice. Yep, really adds a lot of power. Okay, real quick. Again, here at 80. And last but not least, 100. All right, very good. So again, we're going to go over both of these exercises in this video, and we're going to start off focusing on the accented one. So to start that off, let's just really quick talk about the benefits of adding this accent in here, right? Like, why would you even want to do this, right? We've already talked about, this is truly what the single stroke roll is. It's just alternating notes, right? Like, why would you want to add an accent in here? Why even take the time to do this? Well, two benefits, I'd like to call it here. First, dynamics in the form of accents, louds and softs. Those are truly the melody of drumming. In drums, we don't have melodies that we can play, right? We don't have those same notes that other instruments have in that way. And so for us, dynamics are a major part of how we bring melody to the drums. So that's the first one. Second one is by playing that accent and then the next three notes quietly, it's really going to help add some control to your hands here. And we'll dig into that a little more in a second here. But just know that those are really the two main benefits that we're going for here. One is dynamics, right? Making sure we're a little bit more melodic of drummers. And two, adding in hand control so that when we play one loud note, we can very quickly follow it by three shorter notes, or I should say quieter notes, and we have the control in our hands to do that. Okay, let's listen one more time at 100 here. Okay, so 100 BPM, and we're just playing that accented note followed by three unaccented notes. Here we go. Digging into this melodic concept, listen how much life that has in it, right? This is not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but just listen to that compared to when we listen to 100 with no accent. Again, this is not saying it's better or worse. It has a lot of life in it when you add accents in. Listen to this full rudiment, no accent. Great exercise, but definitely not as lively as this. So as a beginning drummer, in addition to those benefits, if you can maintain this exercise, particularly at 100, you'll really start to build up some endurance, especially if you can do this for a few minutes at a time, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time. So let's dig into a couple of other elements in here before we move on to the kick part and what I want you to focus on when you're practicing this. All right, so in the last video, one of the things that we talked about was saying, hey, we really want this continuous, going back to the last one here, we really want this continuous full stroke, right? And, I mentioned don't dead stop the stick at the bottom. Well, kind of presents a problem here, right? Because if I need to hit real hard on that first one, if I need to hit really hard on that first one, boom, the next right hand is a quiet one. So I kind of need to keep my stick a little further down, right? So there's a key to this. All right, so let's back it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm here ready to come down for that next big accent. So we're going to come down and boom, big hit. And then notice what happens. The stick still does rebound a little bit, right? See how it popped up there a little bit? We'll see that one more time. So starting the stroke and boom, big accent pops up a little bit. And then I bring my hand down for that little one. Let's go to one of the slower ones. The frames might show this a little easier on some of the slower ones. So let's back it up here. Okay. So again, nice, real big stroke. Coming down, boom, hits, pops back up, right? You see that? See right there? It pops up, just not all the way. So I'm still catching the stick with my fingers. I'm just catching it very gently, right? I'm not dead stopping it, so it's stopping right at the snare drum. That's going to absorb all that force. We already talked about that. We don't want that. It's just a little mini catch. And then when I come back for after this left, when I come back for that next right, this one right there, that second right there, the one's gonna be unaccented. That one's just a real little one right there. So something to watch out for there. Just remember when you're practicing this, you're gonna have this nice big full stroke, right? You're gonna boom, hit, you're gonna have a little mini catch, and then you're gonna have those next couple quieter notes. Okay. Second thing, we really want to aim to have a big difference in these stick heights. So let's take a listen one more time. And when you listen here, I want you to both be listening for how different the accented note is, this one, from these unaccented notes. And I want you to see how different they look. All right, so take a listen here. Look how high this right hand is coming up compared to this left hand, right? Because this left hand has no unaccented notes. I'm sorry, no accented notes. It's all unaccented notes. But then look at the difference in the right hand. Really big accented note. Tiny little unaccented. You can actually kind of even see that. Let's actually go back. Let's listen to this one more time. You can actually kind of even see it in the audio waves right here. So take a listen here. See really big on that accent. Then it drops way down. Again, quick reminder here. Benefits of this exercise. First benefit, dynamics, right? Adding melody to your drumming. Very, very important. 2, bringing control to the hands, right? Very, very important. When it comes to the actual practicing of this, we want you to work on that little mini bounce. That one right there, right? So you're going to come down, boom, you're going to hit that right there. And then you're going to have that little mini bounce, okay? And then the last piece, you're going to have these little stick heights for these unaccented ones. All right, so moving on, let's talk about this kick one again here. Take a listen real quick, one more time. So just a reminder, all we're doing here is pairing that snare drum with that kick. That's it. That's really the only difference between this exercise with the kick and just this accented one, right? You can even see that. The only thing we added in is when you go to with kick, there's just that kick note down there, right? Let's listen to one more speed. It's a little quicker. So we heard 60. Let's listen here at 100. Listen to how much that adds, right? It just really helps that accented note to pop a lot more. Also, this is a good exercise because it adds in a very minor element of independence, right? Concept of independence, thinking, hey, how do I want my limbs to be able to move either with each other or against each other? And in this case, it's with each other. So nothing changes with the hands. We're just adding that kick in there. But what I want you to focus on is not just, hitting it as hard as you can on your kick and snare there. I mean, that is fun to do. If you want to do that a few times, that's okay. But the main focus here is actually a lot more about making sure that the kick and the snare are lined up, that your timing is really accurate on those. You really want that right hand and that right foot to come down exactly at the same time. And that concept of getting your limbs to pair really nicely like that beautifully translates to many other aspects on the drum set. So the focus of this one is not overplaying that accent, not hitting that accent just absolutely as hard as you can. It's a lot more about getting the timing of this right hand and that right foot together. To end the lesson here, this is going to be just like the last one. For your accented, you got 3 speeds, right? You've got 60, you've got 80, you've got 100. And you're going to have the exact same thing with the kick. Just like the full rudiment one, make sure that you're setting up your device, whether it's your phone, your tablet, your computer, with either your practice pad or your drum set. This might be a good opportunity to move over to the drum set, plug your headphones in so that you can play these videos, right? You can play them on your device and play along with them. So this is your practice session. This is not a perfect science. Do this maybe 1, 2, 3 times at all the speeds. Because again, slower speeds, even though they may not sound as cool, really help with building control. And control is huge. So even if you can move faster, don't skip the slower speeds, okay? So practice both of these exercises, the accented and with a kick at all 3 speeds, 60, 80, 100. All right, good luck. Alrighty, here we go. This next exercise is called Around the Kit. So really this is just an extension of our previous exercise. And if you look at the sheet music, you can kind of tell, right? It's just straight 16th notes with an accent on the first note between the right hand and the kick, except this time we're going to move it around a little bit. So we're going to start on the snare, go to the high tom, the middle tom, and then the floor tom. So this is just a circle around your drum set, right? Take a listen. Just a touch faster here, now at 80. And then final speed, just like everything else, at 100. For context, just to have it in your ear again, this is the previous exercise we did where it was just the kick. So as you can hear, this is really similar and there's no difference when it comes to the sticking. Now we just have motion around the kit. Okay, so let's take a listen to that one more time. And while we're listening this time, I want you to focus on this shot right here, this overhead shot, and look for the placement of my sticks on the drums, right? So you'll see I'm very intentional about this and I'm going for the center every time. Now, I'm not perfect, not saying you have to be perfect, but just take a look at the placement of my sticks on the drums. Here we go. So again, I'm not perfect. I'm not expecting you to be perfect, but I want you to take everything we took from this previous lesson, right? Where we talked about really focusing on getting, the right side of your body synced together, right hand and right foot. That doesn't change, keeping the accent popping really nice, but the accuracy of the timing is the most important factor here. So keeping that in mind, now all we're doing is moving this around the drum set and aiming to keep everything in the center. This is kind of our transition from taking that single stroke roll from a snare drum exercise to truly a dynamic drum set exercise. And this is the last exercise before we get into the beats and fills. So just like all the other practice videos that we did, you're going to have this at 3 speeds. You're going to have it at 60, 80, and 100. And I want you to be behind your drum set, practicing along with these videos 1 to 3 times at every speed. So remember, it's not about skipping slow speeds just because you can go fast. This is about control. This is about accuracy and really moving around the kit super nicely so that when we get into the beats and fills, you've really got this single stroke roll under your hands. Good luck. Here we go. So this is where the fun truly begins, at least in my opinion, because we're really able to start applying this single stroke roll to a beat. So first, before I explain anything about this beat, let's just take a listen at all three speeds, because one of the things I really love about these next few videos is that we've provided musical context to each of them. So we'll listen to this beat number 1 at 60, 80, and 100, and you'll hear a musical backing track behind it. Here we go, 60. All right, great. Let's hear 80 now. Great. Okay, and 100. Pretty cool, right? So let's break this beat down a little bit, okay? And we'll kind of break it down into two halves. We have kind of this first half and this second half here. So this first half, if you're a beginner drummer, something that you probably recognize right away, this is just your standard rock beat, right? You've got eighth notes on the hi-hat, 1 and 2 and you're playing a kick on 1 and a snare on 2. So really basic. This is just your standard rock beat. Okay, take a listen to that one more time now that you've got that in your ear. Okay, so that should make sense, right? First half, just your standard rock beat. Second half, let's talk about this piece a little bit. So if you notice, let's pull this back here a little bit. If you notice, what happens after I play this snare note right here on 2, I'm going to pull this left hand up, right? Okay, so left hand goes up, and then we're going to play 4 notes on the hi-hat starting with the kick. So again, play that last snare note, and then left hand, C, transitions up to 4 notes on the hi-hat, and then my right hand is going to come down here for this snare note and then travel back up for this hi-hat note, right? So it's going to go right, right, right on the snare, right on the hi-hat. Okay, so what we did to make this a little easier is we isolated just this section at a really slow pace to start, 40. This might feel like a snail's pace, and it probably is, and you may not need to do this video maybe more than once or twice, but really wanted to give you the opportunity to be able to hear this really slow. So check out just this isolated second half. Again, you're going to pull that left hand up, play these 4 notes on the hi-hat, and then go right, right, snare, hi-hat. Take a listen. So just like everything else, we gave you this at multiple speeds. The first one's a little slower. It's at 40. Like I said, it's pretty slow, but really wanted to just give you that opportunity to be able to hear that in isolation in a very manageable pace. Take a quick listen here at 60. Okay, so these isolation videos are at 40, 60, and 80. And the intention is for you to practice just this second half first, right? We're assuming that you've already got your basic rock beat down. So if you're good with that, you're going to start by just actually practicing the second half of the beat with these isolation videos to kind of nail down this little transition, right? Right, left on the hi-hat, paired with the kick, and then right, right. Once you get that, you can move on to these full beat videos, right? And these, again, are really fun to practice along with because you got that musical backing, and you're going to do all of this the same way you've done all the previous videos. You're going to be at your drum set, headphones on, playing along with it, maybe 1 to 3 times until it feels comfortable. Good luck and happy practicing. All right, one of my favorite lessons here is always fills. And by this point, you should be feeling pretty confident with our single stroke roll. And if you're not, would really encourage you to go back and work on some of the previous lessons. These don't just have to be one and done. You can go over them as many times as you'd like over the course of a few days, a few weeks, just to get yourself comfortable. So we've really fleshed out this single stroke roll in a lot of different ways. So in this video, I'm going to go over 3 different fill applications, and they all really take the same approach. And this approach is by playing a standard rock beat for the first 3 beats, right? So 1/8 notes on the hi-hat, then kick, snare, kick, and then ending it with 4/16 notes. Now, really, the only place where these fills differ is how you do these 16th notes. So in fill 1, we're going to do them all on the snare drum. So we're going to walk through progressively how these sound. And just like the beat video, all these fill videos have musical applications with them. So let's start by hearing this first fill at 60 BPM. We're going to play a standard rock beat for 1, 2, 3 beats. And then we're going to pull that right hand. Let's take a look at this. We're going to pull that right hand off the hi-hat, pull it to the snare drum, so that we can get this 1, 2, 3, 4 snare notes, right? So we're just pulling that right hand. So it wasn't the hi-hat, right? We're pulling that right hand off to the snare drum. Let's take a listen. Gosh, I really love that orchestral backing track. All right, we'll We'll skip 80 for now, but it's here. Let's take a listen to that one a little faster at 100. Getting a little funkier with that one. Hope you dug that. So again, this is just your basic rock beat, right? 1, 2, 3. Kick, snare, kick, eighth notes on the hi-hat, and then pulling that right hand off, right? We were on the hi-hat, pulling that right hand off to go to the snare. All right, next. So this next fill, super similar to the last one. Rock beat does not change, right? We can see that right here. And actually, even the first 2 notes of the fill don't change. They're still the snare. Now, we're just going to transition over to the floor tom afterwards. So it's this just sideways movement, right? You're just going from snare to floor, which is always a movement I think feels really natural, right? Just kind of going along that plane where the snare drum and floor tom are fairly level with each other. So let's take a listen again. Same deal. This is recorded at 60, 80, 100. We'll listen to it at both 60 and 100. Here we go. Okay, before we go to 100, I think one really great thing to point out is the transition from the end of the fill over to the beginning of the fill. So let's back up this video a little bit. So I've gone, snare, snare. So those are the first 2 snare notes. And then I'm going to go floor tom, floor tom. But watch, as this left hand is coming down for that last floor tom note, watch what this right hand does. It's transitioning over, so I end up crossed for a moment. But what's nice about that is it means I'm finishing the fill with my left hand and getting my right hand ready to start that beat again. So it's right over there. And then the left hand just sneaks under for that next snare note right there, right? Okay, let's take a look at that one more time. Okay, so first snare note, second snare note, transitioning over to that floor tom, boom, boom. And as I'm hitting that second floor tom note, right hand is transitioning over to that hi-hat. Okay, let's listen at 100 and take a look at that transition at 100. It'll look really smooth, especially at this speed. All right, here we go. So really the key to this fill 2, is if you've mastered fill 1, you've really got this rhythm down. The rhythm is no different, right? Rock beat for the first 3 beats and then 4/16 notes to finish it off. The real difference is that transition to end, right? That right hand pulling over right here to get back to that hi-hat. That's the point I would really focus on this for fill 2. All right, for our last one, fill 3. Let's take a look at this music real quick before we listen to it. Super similar, right? Really the only difference here is we've now substituted this tom for what was our snare before, right? So we're going to go middle tom in this point, this tom right here. That said, you really could do this fill on either one of your rack toms. It honestly doesn't matter. And really, if you wanted, you could do, we're going to do middle, middle, floor, floor. You could do high, high, mid, mid. The point is we're kind of moving away from the snare drum on this fill and going for a more tom heavy fill, but the same timing, right? All of the rhythm is exactly the same. So let's take a listen here. Oh, my favorite orchestral track again. Love it. Perfect frame to freeze on as well. What are you noticing again here? Because we end with the floor tom, it kind of doesn't matter what we started with. If we're ending with that floor tom, we've got to do this crossover, right? So we're going to go right hand on the floor tom, left hand on the floor tom. And as that left hand's going into the floor tom, the right hand is crossing over. Boom. Ready for that hi-hat note right there. Let's take a look at that at 100. So there we have it. Those are our 3 fills. And what I think is really great about this is that once you master these 3, you can kind of see how they're really kind of the same fill, right? 3 beats of the rock beat, 1 beat at the very end of these 4/16 notes. And we're just switching up where it is. So in this case, we did 3 different versions of that, right? One where all 4 are on the snare drum, one where we do 2 on the snare, 2 on the floor tom, and a third one where we do 2 on a rack tom and 2 on a floor tom. But really, this could be applied anywhere on the drum set. So just like all the previous videos, this is no different. After this, I want you to practice these applications first and then experiment with your own moving these 4 different notes around the drum set. Good luck, and thanks so much for taking this course.